So my name is Ron Callis. I am the CEO and founder of One Firefly. And we are the industry's largest marketing agency. And I've been working with technology integration firms for the last 23 years, so my whole career. So I actually went to school for engineering and got hired right out of school and went to work for a small company called Lutron. And went from Lutron to another small company called Crestron. And in 2007, I started this business. And so this business actually started doing outsource engineering for integrators around the world. And that business grew nicely. And pretty early on, we started doing marketing for integrators. And in 2015, the marketing business was so fun and it was growing and scaling. And I saw so much opportunity that I actually closed down the engineering business and we doubled down on marketing. And so today, you'll see on the next slide, but we have 80 plus people on staff doing marketing for CI businesses. And I'll let Josh has been with me and he manages the UK market for us. I'll let him introduce himself.
Hey guys, Josh Stremko. I manage our East Coast of the United States and Canada, as well as UK now at this point. Been with Ron for coming up on 6 years. Prior to that, I was also part of the Lutron world in the Northeast on the residential system spec sales side of things, basically helping resi integrators build relationships with architects, interior designers, electrical engineers, design build firms, so on and so forth. Got my MBA and was planning on stepping away from the industry, as some people do, and Ron and Taylor sucked me in, and here I am 6 years later helping integrators to grow their business. It's been a really fun, exciting journey, and we're hoping to do the same over here in the UK.
Awesome. And we are in stand 154, where I think it's over in that corner. So if you guys afterwards want to chat, let us know. Is it that? Yeah, there you go. Thank you. I knew it was in a corner. All right, that corner over there. Yeah, I'm not the navigator. Yeah, so a little bit about One Firefly. What makes us unique, there's several things that make us nice and different, is that we only focus on this channel. The other aspect is that we're what's called a full stack digital agency. So branding, web design, social media, copywriting, advertising, all of that happens under one roof. So a lot of times when you go out and find an agency, you'll find a branding agency, and then you'll find a separate web design agency, and then you'll find a separate Google advertising agency. At One Firefly, by the way, I mean, this agency's been designed and built not really modeled after any other digital or marketing agency, but it was simply built out of what we learned you guys needed. So as we had these relationships and I love this, but I really need that, then if we heard that enough times, we would go out and gain that capability. And that's really led us to who we are today. In the US, I believe this is the United States. You guys will tell me. But they have something called Inc. 5000, which is the fastest 5,000 private businesses. And we've actually gained Inc. 5000 status the last 4 years. So one of the fastest growing private businesses in the US. And what's pretty neat is I've done that entirely serving this community, right? So there's enough need, there's enough opportunity out there for us to be able to build that business, which has been pretty cool. We love to win awards, and some of the awards I'm most proud of, we just picked up a few more, they're not here, but are these Quest for Quality. So in the US, there's a publication called CE Pro, Custom Electronics Professional, and I should know that. CE Pro, but they have a dealer write-in award. So a manufacturer can't pay money to participate. It's written in, and multiple year after year, we've won for best marketing support for the channel. I know you guys haven't heard of us, but that's because we're brand new over here. This is our first trip. So one thing I want you to think about just about the relevance and importance, or I'll call it the role of your website in your business. So first of all, you've probably heard of a lot of these different terms around the perimeter. If you look at, like, for example, SEO, search engine optimization, that's the idea that you have different words, I'm going to call them key phrases, where if someone were to type that into Google, that you would desire that your business shows up on page 1 of search. Well, that happens entirely by design. It doesn't happen by accident. And we'll actually go through a little bit of that in this presentation. But if that person on the internet ultimately types something in, they're going to see your website. They'll see your page title, your URL, your page description, and we're going to then bring them into your website. So all of these are traffic sources into your website. So in our opinion, your website and getting the message right and getting the content right is one of the most important elements of branding and marketing for your business. Why? Because everything else is ultimately going to drive that traffic. Now, from my integrators, where do you guys and gals, where do you get most of your work? I'll just go one by one. Where do you get most of your work? Referrals and repeat business. Same? Same? Gentleman in the back? Same? Same? So I agree. That, by the way, I ask that question wherever I travel, whatever stage that I stand on, the answer is always the same. And I don't think that's going to change, just for clarity. But I want you to think about this. When your business is referred, remember, they don't know you yet. They don't know your business yet, but they've heard of you. Is it reasonable that they might go to Google and type your business name in? It's not crazy talk, right? That's pretty reasonable. Is it possible, let's say you did I'm looking for a name. Let's say you did an acoustics sound room, and Mrs. Smith loves her listening room, and she tells her neighbor, Mrs. Jones. And Mrs. Jones, they hear your business name. Your business name is dropped. But what they do is they also heard acoustics. And they go, I wonder who else sells acoustics in this city. So is it possible that that consumer, when they're doing their research, might say, great, I'm going to research you by name, but I'm also going to look at who the other acoustics dealers are in my city. I want to know what my options are. So when you think about that, that is really the services, the solutions, and the brands that are relating to that referral. It is reasonable that that consumer might also be doing that research, right? It is reasonable that they might also go, and they've heard about you, might go check out your reviews. It is reasonable that they might also go visit your Instagram page to see if you have an Instagram page or to see if you have a LinkedIn page, right? So although your business comes through referral, I want you to know that your website is still absolutely relevant in terms of positioning your business to win that new business and to inspire that customer to ultimately make a decision more quickly. And when you do give them a price, you're better positioned to not have them asking for discounts or negotiating, right? Because as they've gone in your sphere of influence and been consuming your brand and message, your website has inspired them and educated them to ultimately trust you, right? That's the goal. So is that person that's referred to you visiting your website? I think the answer is probably yes, even if you don't know it. So I'll ask you at a high level, who here has loaded their Google Analytics 4 onto their website? Yes? So Google Analytics is free, okay? You can go to Google, you can get a Google Analytics account, it's free, costs you nothing. This is going to give you the visibility to the traffic and all the data you would ever want to know on your website. Okay? And if you do that, clicker decides to stop working. Sorry. If you do that, what you're going to see is that your website, if it is what I would call a normal integrator website, you're going to have between 200 and 1,000 sessions on your website. Now, I'll be honest, this is a really good number for North America. I'm brand new in this market. I think we built, what, 2 websites, 1 or 2 websites? So 3 websites over here. So we're brand new to this. But I'm going to tell you, you want to be looking, maybe this is a little bit of a smaller market. Maybe, I don't know, I'm going to learn. But you should be seeing this much traffic. And if you're a higher performing website, you're going to see actually 1,000 to 5,000 sessions. Hey, that's a great question. The question was, is that impressions or unique visitors? A session by default does not mean unique visitors. You can also look at unique visitors, but we have found over the years that looking at the number of sessions is a really good number to look at to understand that leading indicator of traffic on the site, because that interested party might visit your website 5 times, right? And then they might bring other members of their family in to also check out your website, right? So it's not necessarily unique visitors, although that's also an interesting number to look at. What I want you to consider on your website is the idea that the consumer is, even if they're referred to you, is at varying stages of what's called the buyer journey. So I'm not going to get overly technical or overly technical in marketing science, but I just want you to think about, is it reasonable that someone is going to build a house or remodel a house, or it could be a commercial application as well. It could be a business owner opening a new restaurant or pub and they want to put TVs, in a video distribution system. All of those things apply, but I'll stick with the residential example. Is it reasonable that they are maybe going to do a really nice fit out of a home and they don't know exactly what they should consider yet, right? They just don't know yet. So is it reasonable that they could go to Google and say, what type of technologies or systems would I put in a new 1,500 square meter home in London, right? Because they just don't know. So they don't know about lighting control and motorized shading. They don't know about multi-room music. They don't know about media room options. They don't know, let's say they have a garden. They don't know about putting music outside. But if they are conducting that search, they could be exposed to all of those ideas, okay? I want you to think about that, because then I want you to think about, does your website include content that is speaking to the person at that stage of the buyer journey? Now let's go a little bit further. Let's just go with the low-hanging fruit. And let's say that they know they want to do a lighting control system. They know they want to do motorized shading. So now they're starting to learn about all the different brands of manufacturers that sell those gear. So why would they choose brand A or B or C or D? Now I hear you and you're going, well, they're gonna buy what I recommend to them. But remember, in this example, they don't know about you yet. They haven't met you yet. So when they're conducting that research, it is reasonable. Let's say you are a Control4 lighting vendor or a Lutron lighting vendor. It is reasonable they might land on that brand if that brand information is on your website. It is reasonable when they learn about, I'll say, Lutron lighting, that they now start to conduct Google searches around Lutron lighting. Is that reasonable? And if that content exists on your website, they now can find it because Google now has the probability of indexing your website to show up for that type of search. Right now, let's just carry this example forward. Say they're going to do Lutron. They love it. They love the keypad style, right? That, what's the round button keypad from Lutron? What is it? Elise. Exactly. Thank you. My wife loves that keypad. She's telling me I got to outfit the house. I'm like, wait, the walls are up. This is not going to be easy. So, but she really wants those keypads. And if you, let's say they land on Lutron and they fall in love with the Elise keypads. Now, is it reasonable they might start doing searches to figure out who in my city can install a Lutron system, right? Insert your brand here. It's not crazy talk, right? That they would do that search. And if they do that search, now I'm in a brand specific search, are they going to find your website or are they going to find your competitors, right? So now they've done that search and now they found 6 companies that seem to sell Lutron Homeworks systems and they can have that Elise keypad. Now you're down here where you ultimately have to convince them that you are the best choice. You are the most qualified. You have the most experience. Your project imagery and video and case studies are directly applicable to their style home or project, right? Now you are successfully selling them on you and what makes you special. Remember, all the while, they have not met you yet. They are on this thing called the internet and they are doing research. That is called the buyer journey. And at some point in here, they are going to make contact. They've done their research, and now ultimately you have to deliver in person an experience that has them go, I trust them. I want to do business with them. And then, of course, you want to keep them happy. Why? Because they're going to become your evangelist. They're going to become your advocate. They're going to be the ones that tell their friends and their neighbors about your business, right? So you actually want to stay in terms of marketing and keeping your business top of mind. You want to stay in front of that customer for life, right? The relationship does not end when you finish your install. If you do it right, you are staying in front of that customer forever. Why? Because that customer has a lifetime value to you. They're going to buy more systems from you, right? It is far easier to get another dollar from an existing customer than to spend money to get someone brand new in your door. So you can do that through social media. You can do that through email communication. You can do that by inviting them to private events. Lots of ways to stay in front of that customer for life. But I want you to think about your website's role in this buyer journey, okay? One more. So now what we're going to do is we're going to rocket through 13 or 14 different points. These are your takeaways. Each and every one of these could be something that you go home and actually work to implement on your website. Number 1, we covered. I want you looking at your Google Analytics data. So for those of you that are not aware, the predecessor to Google Analytics 4 was called Universal Analytics. Google retired Universal Analytics, although they just decided recently they're going to allow you to keep the Universal Analytics data until next summer. But after that, there'll be no more data collection. And all your websites today, if you have a website today, you absolutely need to get Google Analytics 4 loaded onto the site. Because this has been available for the last 12 months, and this is the future of Google Analytics data. You will no longer have Google Analytics, Universal Analytics data. And well, why do you need the data? It's like anything in your business. If you want to change something, if you want to improve profitability on projects, you actually need to pay attention to your margins on your hardware and the rates you charge for your labor and the hours you put into your projects. And you sell a job, and at the end of the job, you need to do postmortem analysis and find out, where did you mess up? Where were your strengths? Where were your weaknesses? And only if you do that can you make the next proposal and the next proposal more probably profitable, right? Same thing with your marketing. What you're going to see is how many sessions over a span of time. You're going to see, this is a new deal with Google Analytics 4. You're going to be able to see what's called engagement. If you think about the different pages of your site, a good clue for us is going to be know when someone lands on that website, how long do they stay on that site, and particularly that page, right? So if you know that someone's staying very minimally on a page, then it probably means when you're put on your marketing hat, I might need to retool that content so that it's more valuable, right? Because it's a direct corollary. Someone staying on your website longer is proven to be more likely to make contact with you, right? So looking at engagement. Now, what you're seeing in this environment here, you notice this says One Firefly and this says Audio Visions. So this is actually an enterprise data aggregator software that we use, because for Audio Visions, we also do their email and their Facebook and their Instagram and their LinkedIn and their Google Ads and this software environment lets me pull all of that data in to one environment for all of my clients. You don't need to have an environment like this. This environment, by the way, is called Agency Analytics. You don't need to have that. All you need is analytics, and you can log directly into Google Analytics and get more data than you could ever ask for. It's all right there at your fingertips. It's free. Go ahead. All right. I took a look at all the sites of everyone that registered. Don't worry, I'm not going to call anybody out. I'm not going to do that. Just joking. But there are absolutely sites of the folks that registered for this class that do not have the S, stands for secure. They don't have the padlock, and what you have is this symbol. And this is a characteristic of your hosting. And if you do not have the SSL certificate, what's called the SSL certificate for your website hosted environment, many browsers are actually giving the visitor warnings about security risk of visiting that site. So this is necessary because you often have people on your website providing information, their name, their email. Some of you have payment portals on your website. And so by getting the SSL certificate, it's a way to show that that information is in fact secure. Someone's data they provide you is not going to be at risk. This sounds silly, but actually putting your company name to where it's obvious and the location. So I found this. Is this anybody here? No? Do you guys know who this is? I grabbed examples from people that registered, so I don't know if they're here or not. So here, what they're telling me is that they do commercial and residential properties across South Yorkshire, right? So if I'm a visitor, and this is called above the fold, you want to make sure that that visitor understands who you are and either where you're located or the regions or markets that you serve, and they need to be able to see it immediately. If you don't do that, you're not helping yourself, you're hurting yourself. Why? Because people are drawing a conclusion about your business from the first 1/3 of 1 second, fraction of a second when someone visits your website. They are deciding, is this the right business? Do I think that I'm probably in the right place? Am I going to spend a little bit more time navigating through this content? So you do that, of course, with your name, in this case, a location. You also do it, this looks like this. It does look a little bit stock, but clearly this business is doing security cameras. Clearly they help me see it. I don't know if this is a home or business, to be completely honest. It looks a little bit more commercial, But you also, we'll get into this, but you also want to look at the imagery and visuals. 50% of all the people that visit your website will not scroll down below above the fold content. Half the traffic that visits your website will not scroll down. So right above the fold, you have to nail it. You have to get it right. It is the most important content on your website. What? So customized imagery. So many of your manufacturers here are going to supply you imagery, right? They often, if you notice, a lot of these brands will run contests, submit for our awards. What that often is a creative way for them to get access to imagery. Because often when you submit those awards, you're giving them copyright access to that content. And by doing that, they now build libraries of imagery that they then can share with their dealer networks. So I was just talking to Ali over at Future Automation, and he was showing me some of the imagery they have, and it's beautiful. Some of it's from their showroom, and some of it's from some of their clients. And if you are a Future Automation dealer, you can call them and you get access to the media gallery, right? And that is common for most of the brands here. So you certainly want that to be the case. At One Firefly, we have a beautiful set of imagery and video that we've shot ourselves. And the only people that get access to it are our clients. So it's very exclusive, but it could appear on other websites, right? So what's the best content? It's your content, it's your projects, your office, your people wearing a company polo or company t-shirt. It does not have to be exotic content. It could be unloading the van. It could be stocking the warehouse shelf. It could be building the equipment rack. It could be cutting in a speaker. It could be answering the phone. It could be sitting over a boardroom table with a set of plans. It could be one of you acting like the business and the other person acting like the customer, and take a picture of it. It doesn't matter because it's unique and it personalizes your business, right? Your customers and your architects and designers and builders that you work with, it's people doing business with people, right? It's not people doing businesses with a brand, as much as we owners want to think that. It's your customers doing business with your salesperson, or you, or your project manager, or your installer, or your service manager. That's who they're working with. So just empathize with that person trying to decide who to hire. If I went to a website and I saw this fella and clearly he's wearing the brand and he's carrying a toolbox, like that might even be the fella that's going to work on my project. That makes me feel more confident than a cold, sterile stock image of some clean, modern European interior, and it could belong on a builder's site or an interior designer's website or your website. That's not confidence building. It's better than having nothing. So there's like grades of good. But the best grade is when the content, the imagery and the video on your website is your content, right? Also, from a Google standpoint and standing out on the internet, you want to have content that's unique, because the Google bots can see your copy. They can see the code behind your site and your SEO configuration. They also can see your imagery. They also can see your video, right? So with modern AI from Google, for example, they know what's on your site and they know if it's on other people's site. So I'm used to telling you to have your own content. I'm also used to you going, yeah, I know, but I don't have time. So we have content and your vendors have content. And most websites from your peers still feature that stuff. But I want you to remember, what is marketing? Marketing's about being different, standing out. So one of the best ways to stand out, you are entirely in control of, right? It could be as simple as using your iPhone 14 or the new iPhone 15 or whatever your device is, getting a DJI Ohm gimbal. It's $150 US. I don't know that pound translation, but it's not much. And you now can shoot Steadicam content in your office or at your projects. Shoot that in 60 frames a second, 4K resolution. It looks gorgeous. And it'll look great on your projects. Customized video. We are now in a day and a time where video works on websites. Now, I'm a big advocate of the use case of video as B-roll, silent B-roll. The last thing I want to do is visit a website and hear anything. I only want to hear something if I click on it and I know that I'm getting ready to listen to someone. So if you, God help you, if you have a website that's auto-playing music or something like that, press the nuke button really quick. You don't need to do that. But for there to be video, this is one of our clients out in California. We actually shot this video for them. But if you have video, I mean, this is loading a TV into the van. And you could think that that's mundane, but that's not mundane. If I'm considering, these guys do electric, they do energy, solar, and battery and generators, and they also do integration, right? So if I'm in the business for those things, like this immediately tells me, wow, they have vehicles, they have people, they have a building. This is a real business, right? I immediately feel a little bit more confident about this business. We advocate producing video, but you do need to right size the video. We try to keep those files per page to less than 10 megabytes. So if you're shooting a video on your iPhone, it could be a pretty big file. You have to run it through the right compression to bring it down so that it's just right. It's not too big, it's not too small. It looks HD, but it's right sized for the website. And typically these clips, for example, if you go to summit-e.com, you'll see this example. Typically these clips are 5 to 10 seconds. That's all you need. Typically these clips will be one to 2 second cuts. It's like scene, 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 scene. So now I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, they do houses and they do this and they have a build room and they have all right, yeah. Your website just told a big story without the customer even having to read it, right? That's what is available to you to produce. So when we talk about that buyer journey, and let's say they found you on your website and we're actually moving towards the decision-making process, what you now want to do is build trust. They're still on your website. By the way, an average amount of time that consumers spend on the websites of the Hunt. We manage marketing for 700 businesses is about 2.5 minutes. Okay, what does that really mean? It means that some spend 10 to 20 minutes because they're really looking at every bit of content, and some bounce off as soon as they land there, right? When they stay, these are the things you want them consuming. You want them, let's just talk about reviews for a quick moment. For those of you that are not aware, that referral has been referred to your business. Is it probable the first thing they might do is Google the name of your business? Not crazy talk, right? Do you know the first thing that go on page 1 is everywhere on the internet you have reviews? So you absolutely want to be affecting what they consume. I talk about being in the driver's seat. You want to be active in driving reviews versus passive. Angry people are much quicker to leave a review. It's 10 times more quick to leave a negative review than a happy customer. But who do you want to leave reviews? Your happy customers. It means you need to do something proactive to actually get them to do that. Well, if you've collected those reviews from Google, don't you want those on your website? The answer is absolutely. All of the certifications that you have, your website is the place where you toot your own horn. If you don't toot your horn, who's going to toot it for you? So it's about that subliminal messaging to that prospect. Every certification every member of your team has, you want to be listed on the website. You want it to be on an About Us page or a page where you know they are doing their research to learn about your company history, your mission, vision, values. What do you stand for? What makes you different? Why are you qualified? All of that content should be on your website. If you have any nice testimonials, project galleries. If you have a project gallery, it will be the most viewed content on your website outside of your homepage. It will be page number 2. Why? Because your competitors don't have project galleries, right? But yet, if you were Joe Consumer and you were going to go spend 100,000 pounds on some technology for your new home, don't you think it would build confidence and trust if I could come to your business and see pictures of projects at varying stages of completion that I could understand, wow, they work in projects like mine. They're doing installs like the stuff that I want in my house. Is that going to build confidence? The answer is yes. And here's the tricky part, but I'll tell you and I'll promise you what happens if you do this. The customers that make contact go right into your process much more quickly when you've given them all of this content to consume. When you give them a quote, they negotiate less. They're ready to spend your price. And they're ready to make a decision more quickly. Why? Because you've empowered them to do all the research. So you have to imagine, I hear all the time, yes, but I've been running my business for 20 years and my website sucks and I'm doing just fine. And what I want you to think about is what you've missed. If you actually built your brand online and actually crafted the message on the internet that is consumed about your business, the types of projects that you have lost that you don't even know you've lost, the hard sales cycles that you've had to go through that were unnecessary if you empowered that person to do all that research. So I'll give you this is not a digital marketing class, but I'm going to give you just a little nugget. This is a good number for integrators. You should be spending about 2 to 5% of your projected revenue for the fiscal year on marketing. 2 to 5%. And your competitors are spending generally less than 1%. And that's CEDIA benchmark data, right? CEDIA has been asking a version of that question for many years. The typical business, and I won't do a raise a hand on what you guys are spending, but I already know it's a fraction. And so what you have the opportunity to do is invest in building your brand, invest in having a best-in-class web presence, and your business will profit from that investment. It takes a bit of faith. You can trust me, or you can read any book out there on marketing and small business. It is the thing to do. So mobile first design. So back in 2014, Google changed the game. It was August of 2014. Isn't that scary that I remember that exact date? I want to say it was August 17th of 2014. And what Google did is Google required mobile responsive websites. That's the idea that the website you have here on your desktop knows how to automatically change shape based on tablet or mobile device. Well, the reality is about 50% or so of the traffic visiting your website is coming from mobile devices. So the principle is that you actually want to be designed with mobile first design. You want to be designing an exemplary, you want to be delivering a top-notch expression of your brand on an iPhone or on an Android device. It has to be easy to read and easy to navigate and look great on a tablet and look great on a desktop. Often that means different configurations. Same website, Same software platform, but different configurations that are optimized for those environments. Very important. If not, you're missing a significant portion of that traffic that might be leaving you. What was previous? There we go. You all are for-profit businesses, right? So you want that person on your website to actually make contact. So on every single page of your website, you want to be optimizing and making it easy for that person to navigate and make contact. And you also want to customize the language. Let's say, for example, that you have a home theater page on your website. Well, when I get to the call to action, maybe I want to schedule a conversation or consultation, and maybe I want to say, build the home theater of your dreams. i.e., I want to dial in, and you can even A/B test. You want to play with that language, and the subtlest or slightest changes in this copy can actually have significant impacts on the people that are actually filling that out. So you want to be doing that on every single page of your website. You're not only having a contact us page. The next level, go back. The next level of this, if you run a CRM, how many of you operate a CRM in the business? You do? So you want to make sure on your website that what a best practice is that this is not a web form, but rather this is an embedded CRM form. So you can take, like at One Firefly, we use Zoho. So we use Zoho Forms, and that way when that gets filled out, it pipes directly into my CRM as a lead, right? So that then goes into my sales funnel for being run and managed by my sales team. Internal linking. This is often missed. It's the idea, I just need you to know, when someone lands on your website, you want to keep them on your website. A way to keep them on the website is on every page of your website, link to other pages of your website. Make the journey fun and interesting. If you do that, they will stay longer. And a good example of that, you don't have to have necessarily a big website, but you might have an active blog. We'll talk about a blog in a moment. But a good example, within a blogging strategy, you might consistently be creating new content. Why would you do that? Because that becomes a pillar of a content strategy for your marketing, for your business. If I do that, I'm likely going to have blogs linking to pages of my content, and I'm going to have pages of my content linking to the diversity of blog content I have on my website, right? You go to most of your peers' websites, you will not see this. 98% of the sites out there in our industry do not do this. Really simple thing to do. Live chat. I'll take you on my journey. Back in 2017, I was doing marketing for maybe somewhere around 50 or maybe around 100 businesses or so. And the conversation I was frequently having is, yeah, I know web traffic's up. Yes, I know that we have the occasional form fill in. Yes, I know our social media data looks good. Yes, I know we're doing advertising, but I don't quite understand what marketing's doing for my business, right? And then I beat my head against the wall. And I said, there's got to be a way. And so the answer was putting a live chat agent on your website. It was a theory in the beginning. Now, in North America, we run this service across hundreds and hundreds of integrator sites. I don't provide that service here, but you don't need me. There are a dime a dozen live chat software solutions. Livechat.com is one of them. It's one of many. And these allow, when someone visits your website, to engage with you, and you can either choose to make them give you name and email and phone number before you engage them. You're going to turn most people away if you do that, or you can immediately engage them. And you have to have the right people on your team ready to engage. We found that it results in somewhere between a 5 and a 10 times increase in engagements on your website versus not having this on your website. It is dramatic. And it's becoming almost a new societal norm. More and more websites out there have chatbots. Now, I'll distinguish, is it a human or is it a bot? Either a programmed response or an AI response. Up until the present, we at One Firefly have had the opinion the human is better. I think we are getting very close to AI being able to play some of that role and maybe still allowing for a gate to get to the final boss, right? So there's still humans at the end of the line, maybe a head of service, maybe a head of sales or a sales team, but you can probably get a lot of that dialogue done with AI up until that point. The reason to do this, remember, you have 200 to 1,000 sessions a month on your website. If you put something like this on your website, you're going to see a much higher percentage of those visitors make contact. And if you're spending money on marketing to drive your business, that is absolutely what you want to do. What you can't do, or it will backfire, is run this and then take 5 minutes to respond. You have to respond. You have to be prepared to respond in a minute or less, right? Having this here and having no one engage them, it's the opposite effect. Well, I don't know that anyone's home, right? Or even letting them fill out a message and having no one get back to them in the next 24 hours. You lost that opportunity. They do not trust you. So if you're going to do this, do it at 100%. My belief, anything I try to do, I do it at 100% or don't try. Don't fake it. This is a total sidebar. Don't be a website with a bunch of social links and then not actually be updating any of those social platforms. Only link to social platforms you're active on. If you're not active, pull it off your website. You're only going to hurt yourself. You're not helping yourself. All right, so search engine optimization. What we're going to go through now is talk just for a minute a little bit of the difference between long tail and short tail, and then I'll guide you through. I'll guide you through the concept of blogging and content creation and why that's such a powerful strategy. Why it's such a big part of my business at One Firefly. So the first concept is when someone types in a search, and we would call this a long tail search phrase, Lutron, home lighting control, and in this example, Beverly Hills. Beverly Hills is a high-end part of Los Angeles, right? A lot of your movie stars and rich and famous people live in Beverly Hills. So what is showing up first are ads. So this is called Google advertising or Google ads. Google ads are awesome because it is pay to play. If you have the money, you can buy the position at the top of page 1 for any way that's important to you. It's very powerful. What is negative? Everything in life has a plus and a minus. Nothing's free. The minus is at the end of that month, as soon as my budget is depleted, my visibility is gone. Right? So if you have a biz dev strategy or a marketing strategy driven around Google ads exclusively, you are always feeding the beast. Because as soon as your budget runs out, you're zero. The next month, if you have no budget, you don't exist. You are gone from the internet. Whereas organic results are the results that show up below the paid positions. Now, these are awesome. Well, by the way, show of hands. How many of you, when you do a search, scroll past this and you go to the organic? Everyone, right? You can ask all your friends, all your family, everyone will say the same thing. Everyone goes to organic. So I'm telling you, by the way, you can make money with this. This is not a failure, and it's not 100% like it seems. This does work, but it needs to be designed into a strategy, in my opinion, balanced with the strategy here around SEO. Because this content, I'm going to invest in good, original SEO configured content for my website. And if I do that, it's not immediate. It's going to take me a while, 2, 3, 4 months for Google to index that content and give me credit for that content. But once they give me credit for that content, this is one of my clients, and this is one of my clients, both organic position 1. You can absolutely gain the top of page 1 organic. That is where you want to be, okay? But this is earned. Now here's what I want you to process. I'm going to be very specific. SEO has the best return on investment in digital marketing. Why? Because if I spent the time, money, and energy on my original content to get it here, it will stay here for quarters or years, delivering that traffic into your website until something better comes along. Google does want to reward something better. If someone comes along, better content, fresher content, richer content, newer content, for the same target phrase, boom, now you're number 2. Boom, now you're number 3. So it is a competition. But here's the good news. How many integrators are in the UK? And you are the few sitting here. So the competition is very minimal right now, particularly in this market. It's very minimal. How do you'll test this? You'll think of the services you offer, the solutions you offer, the brands you represent, and you could go down to the SKUs or the products. Like some brands, I know someone here was distributing Macintosh. Macintosh, at least in North America, highly researched, coveted brand. People will cross state lines to go find a Macintosh reseller, right? If you are on page 1 organically within your state for Macintosh, you are going to get business. It's magic. So if you have that line and you do the right work on your website, it is an awesome way to get good quality, consistent traffic into your site, right? So this is very valuable. The best thing for your business is a balanced strategy where you're getting both. Think about the previous is a Monopoly game. How do you win at the game of Monopoly? You own real estate. And then people land on the real estate. Your keywords in SEO are your digital real estate. You are buying up digital property on the internet, and until someone comes in and spends more money for that property, you're going to get all of the traffic. It is misunderstood for small business. It is misunderstood in this industry. But if you take it serious, it is awesome. So I'll teach you, we'll go to the next slide. I'll teach you a little bit, next slide. So on the vertical axis is the number of people searching, and on the x-axis is the ease of getting ranked on page 1. So I could SEO my website for lighting, but it's going to be very hard to land on page 1 for lighting. I would also challenge, do you want a lot of traffic on your website? No. You want a lot of good traffic on your website. In fact, I would challenge that's all you should really care about. Is that target customer, designer, architect, or builder, or business owner that could be your customer? You want them on your website. Nothing else matters. So what you do is you build long tail phrases. You notice I'm adding words together. And by adding words together, I'm going to have very little traffic. But that traffic is seeing me on page 1. And if I'm Joe Consumer and I go to Google and type in Lutron Home Lighting in London, England, and if you are a Lutron dealer that does lighting control, do you want to be on that page 1 result? You bet your bottom dollar you do, right? That's a very high quality visitor on your website. That's why SEO is worth the time, money, and energy to do it You just have to know when you do it, it's slow. So when's the best time to start? Yesterday. When's the next best time to start? Right now. Because it's going to help you pay your bills a year from now. Right? And if you need help paying your bills right now, you do other things like email, like Google Ads, other things that give you that instant gratification. So the key to SEO is content. You have to have branded content. That's your brand message, your brand voice. SEO configured content. And then I'm going to throw another acronym at you, CRO, conversion rate optimized content. Content that is written to speak directly to the consumer. You need to know your ideal customer. You need to know who they are, what their pain points are, and your content needs to be written directly to them so that when they read it, they go, oh my God, where have these people been my whole life? I have to make contact. And when you do that, magic happens. They call you or they fill out a form on your website or your live chat. These are some of the current ranking factors. There's over 200 ranking factors that Google looks at when they're determining whether or not to put your website on page 1 of search or somebody else. Go ahead. Yeah. And there is a bit of a silver bullet. There is a technology on your website called a blog. Often you'll see it called a blog or a diary or a digest or the news or whatever you want to call it. And this architecture allows for a very convenient content container for you to be loading in your SEO configured content. So all of those services, solutions, and brands that you want to be on page 1 for, when you draft that content and properly categorize and tag that content and ingest those key phrases and what are called semantic key phrases into the content, magically that content goes to page 1 of search. Now you have the benefit, back on slide where I was showing you the data, that's okay. Back where you were seeing the data and it was a graph of traffic sources, what you're going to be looking for is your organic traffic source growing over time. That's what happens when you do this. Now, everything I just said is based on the way the world was up until yesterday. What just happened, literally in the last few weeks, is Google has rolled out what's called generative search. This is where they now have, and it's only going to get better and more powerful. Bing is doing this as well. This is where the search engines are going to go out and crawl the internet, and they're going to try to answer your question in an AI drafted summary that is based on the search query. And at the moment, it appears that the answers will have source links of where the AI got its information from. It makes it more imperative than at any time on the internet that the content on your websites is unique, branded, SEO configured, and conversion rate optimized to speak to your ideal customer. If it is not, you will disappear from the internet, likely in the next 12 months. The game has changed. The biggest, most abrupt change in search since the beginning of Google. This just happened. Hosting, we'll talk super briefly about this. This also ties into AI. The internet has been a dark place for bad people to write bots and malware that crawl the internet, and they try to find vulnerabilities in website platforms. Well, much of the internet today is a content management system. A WordPress site, Joomla site, a Drupal site. Those are the top 3 CMS platforms in the world. Well, these environments, if I'm a bad person and I'm trying to attack a website and I'm trying to penetrate the FTP to turn it into a mail server, all those garbage emails you get and you're like, oh my God, where are these things coming from? They're from infected FTP sites. where people don't even know their website's been infected, right? 15 years ago, an infected site meant your website had a bunch of dirty words on it, right? Or dirty pictures, or a skull and bone, like people were messing with you. Today, when your website gets hacked, you don't even know it's hacked. They're just using your server now for nefarious reasons. And you find out the day that your ISP blacklists you. And God help you if your website is served up along with the same service as your email. Quick rule of thumb, separate your email from your hosting vendor. Because if and when your ISP goes down or gets blocked, you don't want to be put out of business. So we're strong advocates of separating church and state. Okay? But if you do these things with your website, regular backups, regular security and maintenance updates, because as soon as the vulnerability is discovered, the open source communities are fixing it, and now there's a patch that has to be deployed. As long as you're set up an environment where you're real-time deploying those patches, you're mostly fine. Think about this visual. You have a beautiful Porsche, and you drive that Porsche down a dark alley, and you park it in a dark alley, and then you walk away. Well, if you aren't doing these things, there's no street lights, there's no security cameras, and there's strange people walking about. That is your website on the internet today, and the reason I said AI is about to change it is AI modified malware and bots are about to 10x to 100x the power of the nefarious actors on the internet. And it's happening right now. You've heard of ChatGPT. There's now HackGPT, and you can spend $200 a month and get access to the best of the best AI-driven malware and viruses. It's scary, and it's only getting scarier. All that means is your website needs to be safe. You also need to be backing it up consistently so that if something funky happens with your website, you're able to go back to a clean version and resurrect it. That's why you do the backups consistently, so that you can go back far enough to get the good code to relaunch your website and put yourself back in business. So we talked about reviews. When someone Googles your name, this is my last point here, and then I'll give you a link where you can grab these slides if you want. If you are actively driving reviews, which you should be doing, and if you have 200 to 1,000 sessions a month on your website, well, then you have a great opportunity to present your strong review profile to your customers. So this is an example of a review widget. It's a plugin. This happens to be ours. There are many out there. And this gives you the ability to regularly, as the internet updates with reviews, live have those update into your website without having to have a web developer do that, right? So if you're growing your reviews, you want that always available on your website. Simply a good idea. I think that's it. Go to the next slide. This is a QR code. It'll drive you to our EI Live page. I forgot to do this yesterday, so I'm remembering today. And on that page, I think if you tell us who you are, I think that's how it works. We're going to give you a link, and you can download these slides. On that note, thank you very much for the opportunity. We are in stand 154, and I think we need no time for questions, right, Claire? If there is any questions, I'd be happy to grab them. Otherwise, we'll call it a day. Questions? Yes?
Out of all the websites you've made, what's the bounce rate?
What's that? So the idea of a bounce rate has been retired. So you won't see that in analytics. That's a universal analytics stat, and it has to do with many reasons. One is that bounce rates often aren't very accurate. And what is not important is whether they bounce. What Google has deemed and the marketing community has deemed more important is how long do they stay. So that's why you saw that change. If you look at let me go back to this guy here. I think it was number 1. So bounce rate's been replaced with engagement rate. So you actually won't see bounce rate. And if you see it, that means you're running universal analytics and you need to get GA4 installed right away. Because ultimately, as a marketer, as a business operator, you want the historical perspective of your performance, particularly if you're going to make changes to your site. So you want that historical perspective to start as soon as possible right now, because the environment you're in where you would see bounce rates, that is going to stop collecting data later next year. And silly enough, the data doesn't transfer. So all of your legacy data on your website, it gets wiped, it goes away, and you'll only have what's in GA4. Any other questions? Good? Thank you all very much.